The woman who walks alone. There is a kind of woman who walks alone. She is not lonely. She is not lost. She is simply charting a path that others dare not take. You may see her at the edge of the crowd, quiet, observing, not in need of attention. You may pass her on a winding trail, a bookstore corner, a late-night cafe. She doesn't look back often, because the journey she is on isn't behind her. It's always becoming. But let me tell you something that the world often forgets to say out loud. A woman who walks alone is not afraid. She is simply in tune with something deeper than comfort. She is listening to a voice that most people have forgotten, their own. Why she walks alone. Why does she choose solitude over company? Why does she stray from the beaten path? It isn't rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It isn't arrogance or misanthropy. It's clarity. Most people are born into scripts. You grow up, go to school, fall in love, get a job, have children, retire, and fade. But the woman who walks alone looks at that script and asks, who wrote this for me? She has known the weight of expectations, the unspoken rules that say, be soft, be quiet, be agreeable, be beautiful, but not too much. And so, one day, she puts it all down like a heavy coat that doesn't fit anymore. She steps outside, not because she hates the world, but because she finally wants to meet it on her own terms. The power of solitude. We live in a culture addicted to noise. The constant hum of validation. The scroll, the like, the nod of approval. But solitude? Solitude is a mirror. And mirrors can be terrifying. It takes courage to sit alone in a room without a phone, without a friend, without a plan, and ask yourself, who am I when nobody is watching? This woman, she's asked herself that question, and the answer was not immediate. It came in fragments, on quiet walks, in sleepless nights, in early mornings where she sat with coffee and silence. No makeup, no performance, just presence, and, in that silence, she found her power. Studies from Harvard and the University of Virginia show that most people prefer to administer mild electric shocks to themselves rather than sit alone with their thoughts for even 15 minutes. Let that sink in. But this woman, she made friends with that space. She found that beyond discomfort lies peace, and beyond peace lies freedom, resilience, through rejection. The path of the solitary woman is not without cost. Society does not applaud women who walk alone. She is called difficult, unstable, cold, unlovable. They'll say she's too much or not enough, but these words are not reflections of her character. They are projections of a world unsettled by her refusal to conform. Think of historical women who walked alone before the world caught up. Frida Kahlo, who turned pain into art. Harriet Tubman, who walked alone into danger to bring others to freedom. Marie Curie, who dared to experiment in a man's world and changed science forever. These were not women who waited for permission. So the woman who walks alone today, on city streets, in boardrooms, in deserts of doubt, she is part of that lineage. She knows that solitude is not absence, it is presence intensified. Love beyond need one. Of the most radical things a person can say today is, I do not need someone to complete me. This doesn't mean she doesn't love. She loves deeply, but not as a beggar, as a giver. She does not stay in toxic relationships just to avoid the discomfort of solitude. She does not trade her authenticity for affection. She has discovered the quiet romance of being alone, the dinner cooked for one savored without rush, the solo travel to distant places feeling utterly whole, the late-night thoughts heard and understood by herself. You see, when she chooses love, it is a choice, not a desperation. And that is why it is so powerful. The woman who walks alone. Inspires, she may not realize it, but others notice. They whisper about her, wonder how she does it. Some fear her, some envy her, and some are moved by her. And that is the quiet revolution she leads. Every time she says no to something that doesn't serve her, she gives others permission to do the same. Every time she chooses the harder, lonelier path of integrity over popularity, she lights the way for others. Like the lighthouse does not chase ships but simply stands and shines. The ultimate return now, here's the paradox. The woman who walks alone is not destined to always be alone, because in her solitude, she becomes magnetic. She does not chase, she attracts. She does not demand, she inspires. And eventually, others will join her, not to save her, but to walk with her. As equals, as kindred spirits. Not filling a void, but celebrating a fullness. She becomes the mountain people seek when they are ready to climb. Not because she asked them to, but because they finally see the view she's always seen. So to the woman who walks alone, keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's true. Because every step you take is a rebellion against a world that told you to shrink. Because every breath you take in silence is a prayer louder than applause. And because somewhere, there is a young girl watching you, wondering if she's allowed to be free, show her that she is. She redefines success. In a world obsessed with titles, trophies, and timelines, the woman who walks alone measures success differently. She no longer chases status just to feel seen. She values alignment over achievement, impact over image, and peace over praise. Where others might see her slower pace or unconventional choices as falling behind, she knows that arriving early means nothing if it's to a destination that isn't yours. Think of the woman who left a six-figure job to become a potter, or the mother who returned to school at 50, or the traveler who traded stability for soul. They walked alone and walked into themselves. Because success to her is waking up and being proud of the life she's living. She sees beauty in the broken. The woman who walks alone is not untouched by suffering. On the contrary, she has likely known heartbreak more intimately than most. But here's the difference. She does not run from her pain. She studies it. She lets it shape her, not shatter her. There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold, making the cracks not something to hide, but to highlight. This is how she wears her scars. Not as shame, but as story. She knows that a heart that's been broken and rebuilt can love more fully than one that's never been touched. She questions everything. The woman who walks alone is a natural skeptic, not cynical but curious. She is not content with handed-down truths. She questions tradition, expectation, religion, relationships, politics, not to reject them outright, but to understand them on her own terms. When told, "This is just how it is," she asks, "But why?" She is the girl who didn't want the pink toy just because she was a girl. She is the teenager who saw injustice and spoke up, even when her voice shook. She is the adult who walks away from inherited belief systems to find something more authentic. This questioning can be lonely, but it is also how evolution begins. She doesn't aim to fit in. She aims to wake up. She balances softness with strength. Contrary to the myth, the woman who walks alone is not hard. Yes, she is strong. Yes, she sets boundaries. But her strength makes space for softness, not weakness. She can cry freely and still command a room. She can nurture and still say no. She can be vulnerable without being powerless. In fact, her softness is a superpower, because it takes far more courage to remain open in a world that tries to harden you. She is both the storm and the quiet. After it, both fire and water, both armor and open arms, and that duality is what makes her whole. She knows the journey never ends. Perhaps the most profound truth she's discovered is this: there is no final destination, no moment where she will suddenly be complete, no perfect relationship, job, or version of herself that will end the longing. Instead, she's learned to dance with becoming, to live in the questions, not just the answers, to savor each moment, not as a stepping stone, but as sacred in its own right. She is not chasing the horizon anymore. She is the horizon, constantly unfolding, So if you see her, this woman walking alone, do not pity her, do not fear her, do not try to fix her. She is not broken. She is the embodiment of the freedom we all seek, but few dare to claim. Let her remind you that you too can walk alone, and in doing so, you may just find everything.